Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Lynette. Today, we're going to talk about tapping into your spiritual side. We both have two sides to us, and last episode, we talked about the carnal side. Today, we're going to talk about the spiritual side. I feel we need both to function at our full 100% capacity. The carnal side we're born with, we learn to use it, kind of our innate ability. The spiritual side is that small voice that we hear that gives us the right answers just at the right time. And I believe that's why people meditate, to tap into that quiet, calming, spiritual voice that gives us all the answers we need. There's some people that function 100% on the carnal side. And it's real interesting because sometimes you can be with someone. They're attractive, they're funny, they have a great personality, but there's something missing. There's like a void. There's a spiritual void within them that you can feel if you're a spiritual person, you can feel a lack of it within someone else. I'm going to share with you today some spiritual experiences that I had. I started getting them, some years back. I must tell you, I wasn't into meditating. I didn't sit around and seek a voice. However, I was into praying as a little girl because I was raised Catholic. But in terms of seeking spiritual advice, I did not sit there and meditate. But what seemed to be a common denominator every time I got spiritual help was I happened to be in a rock bottom place. You know, life throws us curveballs. We have good times, we have bad times. And it seems that it was usually during a bad time that I would get the advice just when I needed it. First time I experienced it, I was laying in bed, and it was almost like, I can't say it was an audible voice, but it was like a spiritual voice, kind of in my head, kind of out of my head, but I don't think there was really a sound to it. It was like a feeling combined with sound, I guess you would say. And it said to me, "You got your calling." And I thought, got my calling? The only time I had ever heard that term was in that movie, St. Bernadette. So I sat up and I said to myself, isn't it kind of late? And then I just forgot about it and went about my business. And I woke up the next day and everything was back to normal. Then after that, I was fired from my job and I was devastated. It was during a time when I really needed the job. Too many other things were crumbling. And I was driving home down the freeway, and this kind of voice that I'm talking about said, "Call Debbie." And Debbie was a girl that I used to work with. We were cocktail waitresses in San Francisco, and she lived in the Bay Area, and I lived in Central California. So I called her, and she said, "Why don't you come and visit?" So I went to visit her. And she answered the door, and she looked fantastic. And I looked like death warmed over, basically. So I said, "What have you been doing?" And she said, "Going to Bible study." And I thought, oh, my Bible study. But for lack of anything else to do, I went ahead and went with her. So from there, we started going to this church in San Francisco called Assembly of God. And I wasn't familiar with that type of service at all. Like I said, I was raised Catholic. And I was at the altar praying. I used to smoke then also. I was at the altar praying, and that voice said again, you're losing your desire to smoke. And I literally felt something leave me. It was amazing. I didn't say anything to anybody. I left and I was delivered from cigarettes. It was astonishing. And all of this is not something that happens on demand. I guess it would be if you were a consistent meditator, but it seems that there is a spirit there every time I'm at a place in life where I really do need help. So anyway, let me take you back to when I went to this church. That was Assembly of God Church in San Francisco. And I gave $1 in the basket, and I was told that when you give, you get 10% back. Well, I happened to work at the Hilton Hotel near the San Francisco airport. So I was at work later that day, and when I was walking over to the bathroom, I looked in. It was one of those ashtrays that has sand in it, and in the sand was stuck a $10 bill. I couldn't believe it. I gave $1, I got 10 back. And it was just stuck in there for the taking, basically. Again, amazing. And then quite a bit of time has gone by, and we sold our home where we lived and moved out of town. And when I came back, I wanted my old house back really bad. So I remember I was at a red light, and I heard that voice again. Well, I said to myself, first of all, I said, I guess you can't go home. And this voice said really quickly, oh, yes, you can. And I wasn't sure what that meant because somebody else was living in our home at that time, but I was told that the house across the street was for sale. So we ended up purchasing it, and I was still in the neighborhood. And again, it came through. Now, don't get me wrong. It doesn't happen on demand, but it seems to happen when I'm at my lowest point or when I really need help. But sometimes I'm too excited, depending on what's going on in your life. Sometimes your mind is in a high acceleration point. And when that happens, I think it's harder for the spirit to get through. And then again, that goes back to meditation, is about quieting your mind so you can let the spirit through. I believe that to walk on this earth in true peace of mind, body, and spirit, we have to be open not only to our carnal selves and the opportunities that arise for us, but we also need to be in tune with our spirit side. I personally feel the spirit side is your godly side. It's real interesting because now one of the biggest challenges in my life has been my mobility. And I have not gotten an answer yet, a clear-cut answer as to what I need to do. I get little bits of inspiration of certain exercises and so forth, but I haven't gotten clear-cut instructions on what to do to be back to normal. But if I had, I would be sitting here making this podcast probably. And my hope is that it's helping somebody else going through the same thing. But regardless, if it's illness, love problems, just life in general, if you want to operate at 100% capacity and be your true self, the best that you can be 100%, you need to walk in the carnal and in the spirit. I know sometimes it feels like maybe if I had a better love life, my void would be gone. Or if I got this job, I wouldn't have this void. But I don't think it's any of that. I think the void is lack of spirit. So I'd like to recap. I do feel if you're listening to this episode, I encourage you to listen to season 1, starting with episode 1, because they all build on each other. And it leads up to this point where, as human beings, if we want to be our best self, want to have that internal peace, it is of the utmost importance that we walk not only in the carnal world, but also in the spiritual world. I believe you must have both. I believe it is the utmost importance that you walk in both. Rather, you need to sit and meditate, or just simply say to yourself, it's okay to glance at the past, but don't stare. As I said before many times, that's kind of a fast track to bringing you back to either a meditative state or to the here and now. In closing, I just want to say that I wish we could all get these answers on demand, but they don't always necessarily come on demand. Meditation helps because you'll get the peace if nothing else, but it seems that these answers are never late. So just kind of let life go, walk in peace, and know that everything will happen in the right time, the right moment that it's supposed to. I understand that's easier said than done. I go through it all the time myself, but I'm learning, just like we're all learning. Put our best foot forward. What better time than during this pandemic to work on ourselves and become the best version of ourselves, to operate at 100% capacity of what we were giving, whether it be talents or whatever it may be. Being a good observer, good listener, being a good human being, first and foremost. I'd like to thank you for listening today. But for now, have a blessed day, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye.